Good afternoon, guys. Video number 2. All right. So, did the video yesterday on World War III. Okay. And it seems to be the topic of a lot of coverage lately, and let's just put it that way. I did a video, Canadian Prepper did a video, Prepper Nurse 1 did a video. The Australian press has talked about it. The Japanese press has talked about it. The Greek press has talked about it, all within the last 36 hours, let's say. Obviously, it's something that is on everybody's mind. And while we all talk about what's going on, the one thing that everybody kind of leaves out is what to do about it should it happen. Okay. Now, none of us can predict as much, how it's going to go down. I can use my knowledge, my background, as best I can to kind of figure out some things, which may be correct, but obviously, I'm not sitting in the Pentagon or something. None of us are. So, we've got to use rational thinking, critical thinking, information we can get, and again, sharing information that we all find, which helps drastically. Something like this is also why one of the big reasons I wanted to do the October 16th meetup, okay? Because there's many scenarios that can happen that could be devastating, okay? People have talked about, La Palma, could there be a tsunami on the East Coast? Yeah, sometime in the next 10,000 years, it's possible, okay? Is it happening next week? Probably not. Could it? Sure. Next week is sometime in the next 10,000 years, so it could happen, okay? We could have terrorist strikes. Let's say Iran does come up with a nuclear weapon. Pakistan already has it, okay? So let's say, for example, you have a terrorist organization that gets, a nuclear weapon. We've all seen movies, what was it? I forget, True Lies, the Schwarzenegger, Jamie Lee Curtis one. Is that possible? Yeah. Okay. Could it be, this is a weird combination of words, but could it be conventional nuclear war? Sure. Any of these things are possible. Okay. Are they probable? Not really, but they are possible. So, it's things to think about. And so, what do you do? Now, depending on the source that you look at, some are a little bit more enlightened, if you will, have a little bit more military knowledge than you have the CNNs who will give you, the most ludicrous scenario and whatever. Okay. So, if I look at and I'll go over these briefly. Let's take a look at if it was a terrorist attack, something like that. A terrorist attack is just like 9/11. They're going to go after a main population center, okay? The most likely targets for something like that would obviously be New York City, Chicago, Houston, Los Angeles, San Francisco, or Washington, D.C., okay? So if you're in those areas, you need to know that, okay? Your life expectancy in a situation like that is slim to none. But let's say it was a conventional, a state-sponsored ICBM or something like that. Countries aren't necessarily going to go after population centers. They're going to go after more of defense centers. And this is what the general American public doesn't think about too much. And let me give you what the most probable places are if there was a conventional strike. ICBMs, whether land-based, submarine-based, even air-based, okay? This may shock you a little bit, and I'll go from east to west, okay? The Pentagon. Obviously, that makes total sense, okay? How about the VLF transmitter Cutler up in Maine, okay? Kings Bay Naval Base on the coast of Georgia. Barksdale Air Force Base in Louisiana. Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri, Strategic Command Off-Fault Air Force Base, Nebraska. Okay. NORAD, that makes sense, Colorado. F.E. Warren Air Force Base. I mean, that's, now you're covering Colorado, part of Wyoming. Minot Air Force Base up in North Dakota. Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana. Jim Creek Naval Radio Station and the Naval Base Kitsap up in Washington. Strategic Missile Integration Complex in Utah. Kirkland Air Force Base in Albuquerque. Those are a lot of places that people would go, why the hell would they go after Albuquerque or Nebraska? Okay. But this is where the U.S. defenses, our nuclear defenses are. So if you live around one of those areas, you need to be aware that you would be a target, okay? Everybody says, hey, I'm going to move to North Dakota, Magic Prepper, okay? Yeah, you're in an area that could potentially be a target. Now, what would a target be? If you use a 10 kiloton bomb, okay, and just for sake of argument here, Hiroshima was a 15 kiloton, okay? So I'm talking about, again, smaller than a Hiroshima. The blast radius within a mile, all the way around, okay, you're going to have moderate damage. You're going to, immediate half mile, you're going to have catastrophe. Within a mile, you're going to have, busted out windows, burning buildings, et cetera, et cetera. Out to 3 miles, you're still going to have significant damage, okay? Probably not as much loss of life from the blast itself, but you're going to have enough significant damage, falling buildings, busted windows, flying debris, whatever it's going to be, out to 3 miles. Within 3 hours, you've got a growing radiation problem that goes out over 20 miles. Within 6 hours, it could feasibly be up to 50 miles. Now, within about 48 hours, that'll start receding, okay? So what do? These are the things. This could be a truck bomb. This could be a major nuclear issue, okay? An ICBM, sure. Now, I don't have to tell everybody about get out, okay? But where are you gonna go? And this is why I say that October 16th is very important to me, because there's people coming from all over the Southeast. There's people coming from the Northeast. There's a few people coming from west of the Mississippi too, okay? Now, if you think about that radius I talked about, 50 miles, if you will. 50 miles from me is about Knoxville. Now, Knoxville's not going to be a real big target, but it could be. If anything happened, okay, and it could be large scale like I'm talking here, nuclear, it could be just a attack, okay? Where are you going to go? Everybody has these, I've got a bug out location or whatever idea. That's wonderful, okay? But what's there? This is why it's so important to know other people and not necessarily just in your immediate 2-block radius. It's great that you've got a local mag that if you're in a good spot, you can stay there. But what if you have to leave? Where are you going to go? And then what is your support structure? It would be a lot better scenario if you knew people who were 50 miles away, 100 miles away, and I'm talking all directions too, okay? Let's say from Knoxville. It's a good idea if I know people who are 50 miles south, say down in Georgia somewhere, or I know somebody who are 50, 100 miles east, out toward Nashville, 50, 100 miles north, me getting up into Kentucky, because I don't know which way I'm going to have to go. But if I have somewhere to go with like-minded people that I already know, then there's a safe haven for me to go rather than being a refugee just out floating in the wind going, okay, this looks like a safe place. And the next thing you know, you're in enemy territory, or there's banditos or marauders or whatever you want to call them, all in the area you decided to go. So if you got that knowledge, that's kind of why I wanted to do October 16th, so people could get together and meet people from other areas, not just to compare, hey, how many cans of beans do you have, but hey, in an SHTF situation, let's start making communications. If I've got to go somewhere, I can get to you, you can get to me. Okay, that would work. All right. So then you get into further things. Well, what happens if we wind up in martial law? Okay, what happens if the roads are blocked? What happens if government forces won't let you go anywhere? What are you going to do? They can't block every road, every path. They'll hit the main roads. There's no doubt about that. The highways in a martial law situation blocked. The back roads, that ain't possible. So you need to know how to get through the back roads to that person, to whatever. Then you think about, what about cyber attacks? All right, same thing. You know damn well that as soon as something like this goes on, the first thing that happens is communications are going to get cut. Okay, whether it is a invading force, whether it's a terrorist attack, whatever it is, communications are going to be down. That's pretty obvious. Different scales. I mean, you could have EMP and everything's down. Okay, but you need to be, this is why you need to have these preparations made ahead of time. You need to know where you're going. Okay, you need to have a paper map if you have any possible communication sort, to let those people know you are coming. All right, because they may tell you it ain't safe here, go a different direction. Those are things you need to be looking at, because just because you live in the middle of nowhere doesn't mean you aren't in a dangerous area. Chances are, in a full-scale war, the cities will be the first things to go, okay, because they have the resources, and the people that need to be corralled. All right, I'm not worried about the first strike coming to Sharps Chapel, Tennessee, but within a few days, yeah, it's going to be here. A few days, of course, gives me a chance to assess my situation, decide whether it's safe to stay here or if I need to boogie and go somewhere else. But all these talks about having a bug out location, that's great. Just because you've got a place in the woods doesn't make it a bug out location. You've got to have somewhere to go that you're already going to know you're going to be welcome. That's something that's very important. Preparation for bugging out, if the scenario calls it, needs to. You're going to be able to take whatever you can. Obviously, your weaponry. Obviously, any sort of documentation that you have, any wealth you have, coins, money, whatever you can get. Okay, whatever you can take with you. As much food as you can take with you. Trust me, you're going to be a lot more welcome showing up to somebody else's house if you walk in there with boxes of food that you have in your truck than if you are saying, "Hi, I'm here, feed me." So just something to think about, depending on where you are and what your plan would be. And this is why I say it's important to be a community. Yes, you want to have your local community, but what if your 8-person, 10-person mag needs to boogie? Where are you going? And it'd be a lot better if you can join up with another 8-person, 10-person mag, and now you're a 16-person strong group. Food for thought. Have a good afternoon. Pinball out.